Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive. Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people who love The Simpsons, about how much we hate The Simpsons. We're here trying to find which is the worst episode ever. And as always, my name is Dan.
And as always, my name is Jack.
And today, we are doing things a little bit differently.
Ooh.
Changing it up. I don't know if we'll sound different at all, because we're recording not at We Studios, we're recording at...
Your apartment.
at Hemus Studios.
No, it's not Hemus Studios.
It's Hemus Studios.
We Studios, Studio D for Dan?
Studio D
M
for Dan. I
for
like
Mulhall?
it. I like it.
Or Milanis?
Studio DM.
You want to just go?
Let's just give out everyone's names and social security numbers.
Do you want to just do Studio D?
We'll call it Studio D.
With the silver...
It's a silver-plated
solid silver walls.
Solid silver. Here at Studio D.
But why are we doing it? Because it's hours, minutes. I don't know.
The snowpocalypse
tens
is
of
bearing down on us.
Death Storm.
Death Storm 2000 is coming.
No, what's it?
A Class 3 kill storm, I believe you're thinking
is what
of.
I'm trying to reference.
Yes.
There's a blizzard about to happen. Well, that's not actually why. All right, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
My girlfriend is who lives at We Studios.
Like a vagrant. She sleeps on the mixing boards.
Sleeps on the mixing boards. She does costume design for movies and commercials and such. And right now she has taken over We Studios. To be fair, we owe her.
It was a hostile takeover.
We owe her 68 of these by now because she has to hide in the bedroom when we record.
That's true.
We
under
owe
the covers, being quiet, just like Anne Frank.
But for once, there was a conflict of interest, and we couldn't. We Studios was overbooked.
No.
I came to you, but because of the blizzard that's about to happen any minute now.
Yes.
We needed to rush this, so we watched the episode. Well, what episode are we watching?
Well, we are watching season 16 episode called The Pranksta Rap.
Just Pranksta Rap.
It's just Pranksta Rap, you're right. And it originally aired February of 2005. I almost said 2005. Barely stopped myself. And yes, we watched this episode already.
Yeah, we watched it like a half hour ago.
I normally say, Jack, have you seen this one?
Yeah.
But Jack, I know you've seen this one because you watched it an hour ago, and so did I.
We watched it separately before I came over. Usually, this is the first time we always watch it together. But just to save time, you watched it and I watched it
Yeah, we watched it separately.
So it's a little weird because we can't do our cold thoughts of what we think it's going to be.
What we think the episode's going to be, or our whole shtick. Jack, have you seen this one? I did. I haven't seen it. I think I saw it in high school. I forgot about it. This is Jack, by the way. I'll see you guys later.
Fans love that. So that's why I'm dead inside, by the way. It's your constant impressions of me and my family.
Hey, Jackie boy, I thought you needed some cheering up. My walls are very thin, and I hope my neighbors don't mind.
Anyway, so I have watched the episode, but we might as well save our opinions on it.
Yes, so we will, because we're still going to take a break.
Yeah.
Because you need to watch the episode, and to do that, you can go to simpsonsworld.com, check it out. You know how to do this by now. And while you're on the internet, doing things, looking up websites, go to our website. It's weepodcast.com. That's weepodcast.com. While you're there, you can get to our Amazon links, and clicking that Amazon link before you shop on Amazon like you normally would, we get a cut of your purchase, and it helps keep the show free. You guys are doing great.
Yeah.
We're having a really great January.
This might be our last recording with entirely with rented microphones.
Yes,
because
we're very close to having entirely our own equipment, which will be nice.
That's a big moment.
Yeah, and possibly better microphones. So we'll see.
Although, to be honest, I think in 2 weeks I'm going to quit podcasting. I think I'm done with it. So,
all right, that's fine.
It's
just in time for Valentine's Day.
I'm sure you'll find another use for 4 microphones.
Yeah, that's whatever. I can finally record that album that I've been wanting to put together.
Actually, I'm not going to be quit podcasting. I'm going to be doubling up my podcasting.
Oh, that's a very good point.
With you, because 90s Percentile is out and about. It's out on the internet. You may have already listened to it and hated it.
Yes, you may have.
Or
you probably have.
Or loved it.
In fact, 2 episodes came out, so maybe you only listened to 1, and you're like, oh man, there was another one? Go back, you dum-dum. There's 2. We're talking about a blizzard that happened last weekend, and we're.
Yeah, so definitely check out our new 90s Percentile podcast. We're very excited about it. Basically, this is it'll be somewhat the same kind of experience if you listen to us before, but this is for people who don't need to be hardcore Simpsons fans to appreciate. Right. Basically, 99% of our friends. I finally have friends and family who are like, oh, I can actually listen to.
Something that will make sense.
The 1990s, I've watched that.
Yeah. So it's basically this show, but we're critiquing the 1990s.
Yeah, exactly. The post-classic
era, yeah.
The post-classic 80s.
Post-classic 80s. We should have called it post-classic 80s. Is it too late to change it?
No, but we're not going to.
We're not going to. Okay, but what we are going to do...
Yeah, check out 90s Percentile. There's a Facebook page. Twitter handle is at 90s Percentile.
Yep.
The website I can't really give you yet because Dan is waiting to the very last minute.
And it will be apparent where 90s Percentile is.
And check it out on iTunes and give us good iTunes reviews while you're at it.
That's going to help out, but we should say that on that show instead of this one.
Yeah, let's say it on both. It's all We Studios, or in this case, Studio D. But
while we're just saying things, I will remind you sync points. Maybe we should say this at the end, but I'm going to do it now. We're running a sale on our Home Alone 2 episode in honor of our 90s Percentile launch.
Because Home Alone 2
came out in the 90s.
There you go.
Go to wepodcast.com, find the Home Alone 2 sync points page, and use the promo code 90SP. That's 90SP, and you can get it for $1 instead of $2. So check that out. And that's going to do it for the intro. We're going to take a break. We're not going to watch the Pranksta Rap because we already have.
We'll probably just have some more of this delicious whiskey you have. We're
going to keep
Studio
drinking.
D.
It's called Adirondack Applejack. It's made from apples.
That's probably the biggest difference between Studio D and Studio A.
Yeah.
Studio A is Bud Light Lime. Studio D is fancy apple whiskey.
That's how I do it, and we're going to take a break.
Please give me back my boy. I just want to tell him I love him one more time. Mom, it's me. Don't cry. I'm okay. The kidnappers say if you worry too much, they'll kill me.
So that was Pranksta Rap.
It sure was, Jack.
Like a half hour ago, like we said. We
Yeah,
didn't
it's been a
actually
while.
just watch it. But who suggested this episode, Dan?
I'm so glad you asked that, Jack. So this episode was suggested by a few people. We got Stig. Thanks, Stig.
You sure it wasn't Sting?
Nope, it was Stig.
I was really hoping Sting was listening to the podcast.
I'm a big fan of Sting's music, so I would have known.
I hope he's like having tantric sex that lasts like an hour and 20 minutes, and he decides to come the second we say cut all this. I guess.
Yeah, that happens. Well, some guy told us that he listens with his wife, so we hope that you two are...
I thought you were going to say some guy told us that he has sex to our podcast and comes when we say cut all this.
We don't know that they're not having sex.
We don't know that they're not doing that.
I want the two of you to look at each other and kiss each other passionately and just now have sex to the rest of this podcast. This episode was also suggested by George Martin Fell Brown.
I hope he's having sex too.
I hope he is too. Tyler K suggested this one, and Brendan.
I hope they're all. I hope they're all having a one big orgy of people who recommended the same episode.
Guys are having an orgiastic we universe orgy.
So I can see why they suggested this episode, unless they thought it was really bad. There's some really cringe-worthy elements to the episode.
That is a great way of describing it.
But maybe it wasn't so bad after all. This is very interesting. Me and Dan have poker face.
I don't know what you think of this episode.
We have no idea what we think of the episode because usually when we're watching it, we make audible noises either positively or negatively.
Usually like or oh.
But in this case, none of
every once in a while.
Yeah. I almost we'll get into it. I almost hoo-hoo-heed. No,
this isn't the bathtub, Jack.
No, there was a certain moment where I almost texted you and I was like, "Dan, this is so terrible."
Yes. Okay.
Anyway, let's just get right into it. Let's do plot recap. Bart sneaks out. I feel like everything before that is irrelevant. So Bart basically sneaks to a rap concert after seeing it promoted on TV by accident to see this rapper named Alcatraz, one of Bart's favorite rappers, apparently. And he goes to this concert, and he fakes his own kidnapping, I guess. I missed this part. He faked it so that he wouldn't get in trouble for sneaking out? Is that why he did it?
That is an accurate representation of the plot.
So he goes to this rap concert. He fakes being kidnapped so that he wouldn't be caught getting home late or playing hooky or whatever. And then he has to kind of own up to it and really just, it just keeps going deeper down the hole. So Milhouse is like, yeah, just go to my dad's house. So he goes to Kirk's house and he lives there for a while. Meanwhile, Wiggum is being derided for being just a terrible police officer in general.
Yep.
And Wiggum decides he really wants to solve this case and find Bart to redeem himself. And that's when he realizes that Bart is actually at Kirk's. And he arrests Kirk Van Houten for kidnapping Bart. And Milhouse is pissed because, obviously Kirk is innocent. And basically Lisa, and I guess Lisa's the driving force. Lisa she realizes the truth, and she wants everybody to come clean, but nobody really. Bart feels guilty, to his credit, but Kirk is loving being a convict because the ladies love him. It's actually given him some kind of meaning into life. Wiggum doesn't want to look like an asshole again, so he doesn't want anybody to find out. And I guess it just how's it end? I feel like when I'm not watching with you, I don't know.
I was with you up until that moment, then I was like, oh yeah, how does it end? I don't remember.
I feel like it's not redeemed, right?
Oh no! They go back to Alcatraz's house to get evidence that Bart was at the concert, and it ends with a house party at his house.
All right, let me do that over. Let me cut all that.
Okay.
Why do they do that though? Why do they go out of their way to prove Kirk's innocence?
Let's just leave all this in. So Lisa says there has to be someone who has evidence that Bart was at the concert, and they somehow know to go to Alcatraz's house. Because he was on stage with Alcatraz rapping.
Lisa's the only driving force here. She's the only one that is like determined to find
right.
She goes to Skinner
for no real reason. She goes to Skinner, but why does Skinner give a shit?
I don't know. Anyway, they have video footage that Bart was actually at the concert at the time and not kidnapped, so that exonerates Kirk,
who didn't want to leave prison.
Yeah, who didn't want to leave prison, and I guess Wiggum now is a joke again.
I have no idea.
I kind of stopped paying attention in the last couple minutes. I'm sorry, guys.
I have a lot of notes on the first act.
We had one job and we blew it.
Well,
the couch gag was very nice. It was very quick. It was like they were chess pieces.
They were all chess pieces.
I thought that could have belonged in the season 7 and you wouldn't even blink.
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
So before we get into the scene by scene,
okay,
was this the whole faking a kidnapping? Was this a parody of anything specifically where somebody fakes? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of fake kidnapping plots,
right?
But is it where
like Burns Baby Burns from season 8?
Yeah, exactly. But where they fake a kidnapping and then they feel bad because somebody accidentally got arrested for it. And I looked it up on Simpsons Wikipedia and I was like,
there's nothing on Wikipedia.
There's no specific reference to any. I can't think of any. I've certainly read my fair share of kidnapping stories and kidnapping stories with a twist. Yeah, but I can't think of one where somebody got in trouble that wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, I've kidnapped a bunch of people, but I don't think it was based on anything that I watched for my research for my kidnapping plots. I think, but it was an interesting idea, like that this Bart would do this phony kidnapping thing. We'd seen Homer construct a phony kidnapping in the Burns Baby Burns episode. It was just mixing phony kidnapping episode with Gangsta Rap episode. Didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I guess I'll just bring this up now. I was shocked at how little rap there was.
Yeah.
I mean, the first act, there's a lot of rap going on.
Right.
And I remember this episode. You didn't really get to ask me since I seen this episode before.
Right. But I had seen it previously.
I had seen it previously, but there was only one or two. There's one scene I remembered, and then as I was watching it, a few more scenes came back to me. But basically, I didn't remember the kidnapping at all. I just remembered the rap.
Right.
And I was kind of shocked that it goes away almost until the very end. I really thought,
I didn't think it was going to come back even.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to come back
once this kidnapping stuff started, I was like, oh, this is a completely different episode now.
Yeah, I remember I was like, at one point I was like, wait, is this a Wiggum episode?
Yeah, right. That was exactly my thought.
So that was kind of surprising how little the rap is. I mean, the first act does have a lot of rap.
The first act has a lot of
rapping.
rapping.
That was me clearing my throat. That wasn't me trying to do like a rap. I wasn't trying to... There wasn't a lot of rap. Now I'm doing what they're doing. Let's not do that. Let's not fall in that bombardment trap.
All this. We're going to cut
we're
this.
Not falling into
Where's my boy Hemus? We're going to catch a bus.
Do you remember the rap song that we wrote?
I like that. Wait a minute. I like that you found a point to organically bring this up.
Yeah.
Go on. I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, well, I had completely... So me and Dan wrote a rap song together, or I wrote it for us. I forget.
I don't remember how it happened.
But it was 16 years ago, and I totally forgot about it until I was editing a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about my Sexual Pancakes album.
Yes.
And I completely forgot about it until then. And the whole idea was to do what I guess was popular at the time, doing a rap remake of a previous
like
hit
an
song.
older song, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we wrote Cootie 2001.
Yeah.
And it was a rap remix of
the Cootie song.
Cootie song.
That the children
circle,
know.
Circle, dot, now you've got the Cootie shot.
shot.
And I don't have the lyrics on me because I don't have my computer. I'm in Studio D here.
Yes.
So we'll have to hold off on it. But all I remember was the first.
I remember the refrain.
I remember we'll get the refrain.
Yeah, okay.
But I remember the lyrics were something. It was something like circle, circle, dot, dot. Now you got the Cootie shot, and then there was like lyrics to that.
Yeah.
And the refrain was when you would come in. By the way, I can't remember what your name was. My rap name was Jack O Diamonds.
Oh wow, I didn't remember that.
I
and I don't
forget
remember
what
mine.
you were. Maybe Diamond Dan. I don't know what you were.
We had a diamond theme going on.
No, it wasn't that. I don't remember what you were. But anyway, I would do the rap, and then you would come in with the refrain.
Cootie 2001. Now you've got the Cootie shot. It made us laugh. Hopefully, it made you laugh.
I mean, I don't. If we had the right recording, if we had our 4 microphones,
microphones.
I feel like it could have been a big hit.
And we could do it in surround sound too.
Yeah, Cootie 2001. Now you got the Cootie.
15 years later.
Anyway, so we do. So my point is. Now,
So we're rappers, professional rappers.
So we
know
what we're talking
about
here. We're not just Simpsons experts.
No, of course.
We're experts of the rap.
Absolutely, and experts on the 90s percentile.
And that's it. And Home Alone, I guess.
And that is then Home Alone, and possibly other films that we choose to do in the future.
Let's sex.
Well, yeah, sex, obviously.
Tantric sting
Sting style sex, where we yell, "Cut all this" as we climax.
Cut all this.
No. You're being as offensive as this episode was.
Well, that's not.
That's a bit offensive.
That's because of the Indian guy?
Yeah.
No, I'm just making fun of the song.
All right.
I'm not making fun of Indians.
Okay, you win.
Hold on. Again, I'm not making fun of the idiot. It's just really funny when that breaks into the song. It's a silly song, Desert Rose. It's a silly song.
It's a silly song. It's a silly song. Let's talk about the pre-rap scenes.
Yeah, the non sequitur opening.
Homer is watching TV. He's watching a football game, and he knocks the remote into a bag of chips that Santa's Little Helper eats. And so Santa's Little Helper eats the remote in one bite. Okay, sure, why not?
Not the first time.
Not the first time. And then it happens when Santa's Little Helper burps or barks or whatever.
Yeah,
the channel changes.
Yeah.
So, what kind of remote is this? Because if it's an RF remote, it wouldn't work. It has to have a clear line of sight. It uses light. It'd have to be some sort of Bluetooth remote. And I don't think they had those in 2005 Simpsons.
Maybe it's bouncing between the dog's esophagus and coming out of his mouth. And
you and your logic.
Yeah, so Homer is like freaking out. He's watching, what was he watching? Football?
Well, he was watching football originally,
Yeah.
and then it changes to, I like to change to Rueda de Fortuna, which is Wheel of Fortune in Spanish.
Sitcom Sundays, which was fine.
Sitcom Sunday was funny. It was, I don't know, it was a very quick image.
Yeah, there was,
but it was
My Two Dads,
right,
Friends.
a bunch of people with a baby.
Yeah.
It was, all typical sitcom setups.
Yeah,
it was cute.
I don't know. It did nothing for me. All right, so I'll just say this now so you're not as surprised.
Okay.
After the first act, once the rapping starts, I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad because we've been getting so many mediocre episodes. It's like, oh, nice. We have a really bad episode to talk about.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna be really torn what to give it in the humor category because there were so many. Not so many, but there were several, more than usual, jokes that actually I really genuinely liked. Not like, oh, that's not bad. I genuinely liked.
After the rap stuff.
After the rap stuff, but this first one was before the rap stuff.
Okay.
And it was when they turned to, we now return to Mel Gibson's Salad of the Christ.
Salad of the Christ, yes.
And I don't know what's funnier, Salad of the Christ or that it was Christian Carrot Theater, which is obviously it's a parody of VeggieTales.
VeggieTales,
which
yes.
I did watch in Sunday school.
Yeah.
And the animation was the same.
It's a computer animated show about vegetables who are
Christian
very
vegetables,
Christian for some reason.
They do Bible stories.
Right.
But it was really funny to see like a tomato being whipped violently.
I mean,
the animation made me laugh, but it was really just
animation
it
was
was really
good.
the Salad of the Christ and Christian character. Like it was just the word there was this is where we talk about Doomsday, where you could probably come up with 1,000 jokes and you write them all on the board and you pick the best ones. I think they did pick some of the best ones. I think
Salad of the Christ was Doomsday.
Yeah, I feel like there could have been lazier ways of making that joke.
See, it's funny that you say that because I don't know. I couldn't place why I didn't love that moment, and I wrote in my notes.
Too on the nose.
It feels lazy.
It is
because it's just taking two early 2000s things that were very Christian, The Passion of the Christ and VeggieTales, and just mixing them together.
I'll say this. I'll say the joke itself is lame and on the nose. The idea is like if somebody pitched me, let's do a VeggieTales, Passion of the Christ, I would probably shoot it down. But again, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The execs, I'd have.
We will not be showing
it's
that.
Just the executive. I'm busy doing all these podcasts, so the executive Jack's movie is actually just a giant ass in an Italian Armani suit with a cigar.
Yeah,
and he just smokes the cigar.
I think it's poop.
Yeah, through his butthole mouth. Yeah, and that's his catchphrase. I think it's poop. So anyway, he would have shot this down, but the Simpsons obviously don't shoot anything down these days.
Yeah, especially not in season
And whoever
16.
was tasked with actually making the joke work, Salad of the Christ and Christian Carrot Theater, and the animation of it made me laugh. So the idea, don't like. The execution, like. It's
Okay.
actually the reverse of how I usually feel with the modern day gags.
Fair enough. I mean, I didn't think it was the worst thing in this episode, but just something about it didn't click for me. I didn't think it was super funny.
You thought it was poop.
I thought it was poop. Just like Stink Eye.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to bring this up too. There was a lot of really lazy one-liners that Homer would do in multiple scenes, at least in the first act. I think I stopped paying attention after that, or stopped looking for them. But there was lots, it was when he was doing an action, like he's doing something, and I felt like the writers felt the need to give him something to say, like as if the animation, the action wasn't enough. So like when he's looking for, he's pulling up the carpet, which is a very silly idea to begin with, and he's like, "This is not a drill." That's not funny.
I didn't even remember that.
And then he chases after the dog when he gets stuck in the doggy door. He goes, "You lazy American dog." Again, why is that saying that? That's not adding anything to the situation. That's lazy American writing, if anything.
It is. I didn't write any of those lines down, and I've completely forgotten them at this point.
Well, we mentioned this before we started recording. We took more in-depth notes because we weren't talking to each other the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is probably why we missed stuff, because we were actually taking notes.
Yeah, we were taking good notes.
Yeah, so there was a lot of these like weird one-liners to fill space during the action, and it just you don't need that. Again, I feel like that's the mark of somebody who's not confident in what they've already got.
Right.
That's something the old show wouldn't do, or if they did, they'd work really hard to make sure those lines were funny.
Or that they were integrated somehow and made some kind of sense in the scene.
Just this is not a drill, lazy American dog. Come on.
It didn't work. Let's talk about we're both white. We're both white men. I'm gonna say that this was an offensive little piece here, where on the TV it's a commercial for, what was it? Murder something?
Murder for Life.
Murder for Life. There you go. It was some kind of like rap.
That's not bad.
No, that part's fine.
Life, yeah.
But it was just nothing but gangster rappers in like very tired stereotypes, I guess.
I mean, it's not just this one moment where they cut to the
No,
BET.
it's not.
It's the entire segment dealing with rap, and it was really, it felt
and Harry
like,
Shearer doing like a blackface kind of voice.
And Hank Azaria, right? He did the rapping.
Well, he was the rapper, but Harry Shearer was like the hype man in the rap commercial, and it was weird.
Black voice.
Black voice.
Right? Instead of blackface?
Blackface voice is what I said. Well, let's just take out the face.
Black
it's
voice.
black voice, yes.
No, I agree. It seemed like, obviously you can have a white guy do a black guy. I've seen those movies. So no, I mean, like Carl is not really offensive. Lou, Dr. Hibbert.
Because none of them
are playing on any tropes.
Right, exactly. Except Hibbert, who's sort of like a Cosby stand-in.
I mean,
but anyway.
It feels wrong. I don't want to go all the way out and say it is, because I feel like these stereotypes are more rather than race. I mean, you can't separate it from race because it's such a part of hip hop culture, and African American and black race are so intertwined.
Yeah.
So you can't really separate them. But I do feel like it was more playing on hip hop culture than race.
Was.
And again, as I'm saying it, I realize how that's a completely spineless argument, because again, they're just so intertwined.
Look,
but this is my point is this. This felt like it wasn't written by let's say Donald Trump. It felt like it was written by my dad. Like it was all dad.
I wrote a podcast. I wrote an episode of The Simpsons.
It was like all dad jokes about rap music and hip hop. Like, yeah, I remember I was on the beach down the Jersey Shore one year, and somebody had their boombox playing, and they were blasting rap music, and it was bothering everybody on the beach, because you play any music, it's just bothering anybody. You should be blasting music.
Where is this story going?
So my aunt just goes, I'm a big Italian family. This is like, we're that family on the beach that is just like a giant circle of beach chairs and just like 50 people.
Yeah.
Anyway, my aunt just goes, "Rap is crap," and like she said it like spontaneously. She didn't, and then she. Like everybody thought it was the funniest thing in the world that she rhymed it, and the fact that she came up with it on the spot.
Right.
You would have thought that that Johnny Carson was there. Everybody, it was amazing how everybody thought it was so funny that my aunt was like, "Rap is crap." It's like, yeah, that's right. It's just it's such a dad thing to do, or this is an aunt thing to do, to like make fun of rap music, or at least it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because it was those kids listening to that crappy music that I can't relate to.
Right.
Now it's a little different because we've grew up with it and parents have grown up with it. But it really felt like just dad jokes, and especially when Homer starts rapping. We'll get into that.
But just this scene in particular, it made me feel not good.
Okay.
Let's just put it that way. I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. Maybe you liked it.
No, I didn't like it.
Maybe you're voting for Trump. I don't know.
I'm not voting for Trump, and I didn't like the scene. I just
maybe you are, listener.
But I just feel like, I feel like it wasn't. it was more just like a really shitty, lame perspective on rap music, especially
Well, they
since
didn't.
you would think
They
these
didn't
would
say
come
anything
from-
about rap music.
You
Like
would think-
maybe they're
right,
just
right.
saying like they spend
Exactly.
extravagantly, which
Yeah, 'cause
okay,
can you
that is
imagine
the
me
most
explaining-
tired
can you
trope.
Can you imagine me explaining to my aunt like the history of rap music or its context or anything like that when she
Right.
said rap is crap? No, to her it's just shitty music, and that the kids listen to.
I feel compelled to say this as a wrestling fan, but "Rap is Crap" was the hit single of the wrestling stable, the West Texas Rednecks, in 2000 or 2001 WCW. Just want to throw that out there for like the one person who knows what I'm talking about.
I'm pretty sure that my aunt said it before them, so
I don't know.
and she probably wasn't the first person either. But
Maybe your aunt was really into WCW. It's not completely out of nowhere.
Not completely out of nowhere. I do want to say this. Isn't it crazy how they needed this ridiculous, non sequitur, random chain of events? The dog swallows the remote. This. To get
to the fake
Simpsons to
kidnapping.
list. No, to get to the Simpsons. Realistically watching BET, like there was no other way for them to have because the whole chain of events, the whole plot starts because Bart sees the rap concert commercial on this
Right.
BET channel. It wasn't BET, but it was a BET analog, and so they just needed a reason for it's just like the Otto show. They need a reason for Otto to stay in the Simpsons house, so they do the whole Spinal Tap.
Right. But did they need a reason? Because all of a sudden Bart is like a huge rap fan.
That's what I'm saying. Like
where did that come from?
So wouldn't he
Out
just
of
be
nowhere?
watching it naturally?
Yeah.
Did you have to have this whole plot where the dog eats the remote to realistically have the Simpsons watch a black people channel?
No, you didn't.
It's so silly.
It was odd setup, but that's not out of the norm with The Simpsons.
It's not out of the norm to do a non sequitur first act. It's just
Yeah.
funny that they went so far their way to be like, oh, so this is why the Simpsons would be watching this channel.
Yeah. Well, the first act is a complete non sequitur because it sets up this whole rap thing, and then that has nothing to do with anything else except at the very end, which is kind of whatever.
So Bart sees this commercial, and he's so excited because it has his favorite rapper, Alcatraz.
Right.
And Bart's just like starts talking in rap. He's just like, yeah, this stuff is the junk. First of all, it's just really cringeworthy, again, in that dad way, to hear Nancy Cartwright or Bart talking as a rapper. First of all, it just seems so jarring because he's never been like that before, ever.
No, not at all.
It's yes, he's a white suburban kid, and you can fit that general mold.
I mean, I guess this was the time for Bart to be into rap, though.
Yeah.
Maybe a few years
You're
earlier.
right, but the fact that it was just this one time only, with no
Yes.
other, if you had him. I don't know. The idea is he's supposed to represent the American suburban boy, and then in that case, he should be listening to rap, but he doesn't.
It wasn't. There was nothing to show like, oh, Bart is getting into rap. It was just suddenly Bart is into rap. Like there was no scene of him like listening, like, hey, this is pretty good, and then like getting really into it.
Maybe we're definitely not. When we say we don't like the post-classic episodes, we're definitely not in the camp of. We only like it. We don't like it because it's different. We only like the first seasons because that's the ones we grew up with. We've clearly.
I only like season one. I'm changing my mind on all the other ones.
After 68 episodes, we've clearly established that it's objectively worse because of the writing and everything is just not as good. But I wonder if one of the reasons why it just will never get good again is because if more or less the characters are dated. If Bart, I'd never thought about this before, but if Bart represents typical American suburban childhood, the only way to have him represent typical American suburban childhood of 2016 would be to update. He'd have to grow up with a smartphone. His music taste would be different. Bart
He'd be a digital native.
Yeah, exactly. And they do. They add in iPhones and stuff. But it
feels weird because we've grown up with Bart and we weren't like that.
Well, and that too. But they're basically just adding on. They give Bart an iPhone.
Right.
Now Bart likes rap music. It's kind of like they're tacking on rather than it being a core part of his personality. Whereas skateboarding and his Dennis the Menace vibe and even
all that stuff there since the
just
beginning.
His general ironic, sarcastic nature is of its time in 1990. That was a very Gen X thing. So it's
still of its time now.
Yeah. So maybe there's really no way the show will ever be able to fully do what it did best, representing a working class family in America, because in order for it to really represent a family 30 years later, it would fundamentally have to be different. Maybe they can adapt. Maybe they can. Maybe they can. Certainly character.
Prove us wrong.
You know, Sherlock has adapted, and other Shakespeare has adapted.
Well, but
and Simpsons
adapted, I think, is the key word there.
It would have
because
to be-
this
you'd have
is
to
the
change it
same
completely,
show.
yeah.
This is season 27 of a continuing
You're right.
series.
So
if
I
there was a
guess-
break and then we did like The Simpsons in
which I wish
2030
they
or
had
something.
done. I kind of wish they had stopped in '98 and then come back for a couple of seasons like Arrested Development and X Files and all these shows are doing now. That
Right.
would have we probably would have been jizzing our pants to Sting right now. But
Jizz in our pants to Sting, possibly the name of the episode.
if they did that, but
I feel
it's not
like
going to be the name of the episode.
no, it might not. Well, we'll see. But jizz in our pants to Sting. No, I'm curious to see like. Would it be different? We've talked similar things before, but like if they did something like what Parks and Rec did in its final season, where it jumped
The
ahead
jump
a few
forward, yeah.
years.
We talked about that.
I feel
yeah.
like that would be something where they could do what you're talking about,
Yeah.
like adapting the characters a little bit
Yeah.
and kind of
But you can't go
changing
back
them,
to
but not
it.
making them completely different
Right.
characters.
But you can't go back then. Parks and Rec
You
did
can't
it
go
because
back
they
then.
knew they only had 15 episodes.
Look, man, they know that the time is running out on the Simpsons clock. They're probably going to get to season 30 just so they
Yeah.
get that nice round
Maybe.
number.
Look, I wouldn't be completely opposed to it, but I don't know. Parks and Rec was only on for 7 seasons. It wasn't the biggest time jump. It's live action. I feel like it would be very different for the show to do it. I'm not completely against it.
The Rugrats did it. They got all grown up.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I would like to see the Simpsons all grown up.
That's a great point.
I want to see Maggie.
But
and
just think
Chucky.
about this, then you would never see 10-year-old Bart again. I guess they could do flashbacks, but
I mean, but like, I'm not seeing
know.
him
You've
now. I'm
seen
just
him-
watching
yeah,
him in
I
these
know.
terrible episodes that I don't
I
like.
know that it's an interesting question to raise, especially because it'll never happen.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
We just watched Boyhood. That was probably the closest they will get to doing anything like that.
You're right. We just watched Barthood. Although we did also just
yeah,
watch the
yeah,
movie
I'm sorry.
Boyhood
That's what I
in
meant.
full.
Yeah, but just I was cringing as soon as Bart started talking rap. Like
Yeah.
and then the joke was that he was using dated terms because he's like, "You
Right.
be illin'," and Lisa's like, "That's 80s.
Don't diss me.
Don't diss me. That's 90s." You know, and like,
Right. Even
it's-
Marge comes in.
so-
Do people still say diss?
But I feel like this is that lampshading where by admitting that you're admitting that the joke is lame, you're admitting that you're doing it wrong. You're wiping your hand. The writers are wiping. They're like, no, it's okay that he's talking like this because we're pointing it out. And it's like, no, it's still really lame. And like it really, I didn't hate it. It just felt like I was watching my dad try to be cool.
I feel like another time that they did exactly that was when Homer and Marge were rapping. It was clearly supposed to be bad.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah, that was really just unfortunate. It wasn't funny. And again,
No.
the
joke is it's parents trying to be cool and rapping and trying to identify with Bart.
And if we had a writer here from the show, which will never happen because we spend so much time telling them how bad they are at their job.
we actually do have a writer here. His name is Bob Writerson.
No, he's not. That's not true.
You're right. There's no one here. It's just you and me.
But even if we had a writer here, I could see them trying to defend themselves and saying, no, we know that. We intentionally made the rap bad. It's supposed to
Right.
sound like your dad wrote it, but that doesn't...
But it goes on for it doesn't go on for so long, but it's
Yeah.
like a good 40 seconds, I would say.
This is not the best analog because we come up with these on the spot. We don't really do that much prep. I'm sure I could find one if I thought ahead. But, all right, so you want to sell a joke that your parents are corny. But
Right.
I feel like maybe there was a right way they could have done a rap or done something where I would have actually laughed out loud and been like, that's really funny. But in this case, it wasn't. I just cringed the whole time. I was like, this is terrible. And I was like, but can you make that joke funny? And this is not the best analog. But I think about the chicken dance in Arrested Development.
Okay.
Where it's kind of, this isn't exactly the joke, but it's part of it.
The joke is they don't do the
that they're
chicken right, right?
Well, the joke's also how corny it is. It's like your dad's doing it. They're making they're making a fool of themselves.
Right.
And I'm laughing at that. I'm not thinking, I know the joke is supposed to be they look stupid, but I'm not.
But it's also inherently
Yeah.
funny
Like,
because they look
I'm
stupid.
not cringing at like, oh my God, Jeffrey Tambor is embarrassing himself right now doing the chicken dance.
Right.
Jessica Walters is embarrassing her. So she's such a classy lady. For her to be flapping her wings and clucking like a chicken
Right.
is so humiliating. No, you're laughing your ass off because it's funny.
It's funny.
I feel like maybe there was a way, I don't know how, you could have had
Well-
Homer and Marge do the scene where I would have been laughing at them.
They did it in Mr. Plow, where Homer's rapping.
You're right. There you
Duck
go.
your
That's
cow
a much
if you
better
had
metaphor.
one. And that was such a great
Yeah.
moment where it's a cheesy rap and everyone knows it's cheesy. The kids are groaning. The cat is yelling.
Yeah,
By
you're
the way,
right.
you may hear my cats in the background at some point. And yeah, I thought of that.
Feed us some more smelly food.
Oh man, my cat's very vocal today.
Hey, we're gonna go have sex with each other now.
No, they've both been fixed. They're brother and sister.
We'll figure it out. We'll improvise. I see the rain.
I think my cats need to go out to the bus stop.
Right, meow?
Jeepers, it's 50 Cent.
Yo, B, I heard you throw down on stage. Want to join my world tour?
Sorry, Fitty. I have school tomorrow.
You're right. The more you know, the further you go. And that's when to grow on. Does that count as community service?
No.
All right, take me to the park. We'll pick up some dog poop.
Yeah, so the rapping was terrible. It was the worst part of the episode.
Agreed.
Bart talking like that, and then the parents rap, and then Homer and Marge. It was Christ, it was terrible.
It was. One line I actually liked before Homer and Marge rapped, though. Marge finds out that Homer said Bart could go to this concert, and Marge is yelling at Homer, and Homer just goes to Bart. Son, your mother makes a very loud point.
Yeah, that was very
I like that. I laughed at that one.
Again, it's so simple. Just that one
That's
word.
very simple.
It conveys.
Very relatable.
It conveys so much. Basically,
Yeah.
Homer is saying, to point out the obvious, Homer is saying, I don't necessarily agree with your mother, but she's going
I don't want to be nagged,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
she's very loud.
And to say that in such a succinct way, that's good writing.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
that,
no,
do
that
that
was
the
good.
whole time.
Do that.
The
whole episode should be loud talking.
I also liked Marge. I thought it was a very nice Marge moment. Again, if you're going to do the whole dad joke, the whole parents think rap is crap, I'm sure you can make it funny. And
Just like Kurt Hennig and the West Texas Rednecks.
And they did very briefly. Marge called it stink talk. Now, to me, that's a very inherent way
Forgot about
for
that.
Marge. That's a perfect Marge opinion of rap.
Right.
Stink talk. That
Yeah.
makes sense to me. Her rapping with Saran wrap is not fun. Is not bad.
No, that was no good.
Yeah.
No good.
Like stink talk to me is a Marge line that fits.
Yeah. But anyway,
they
don't let Bart go to the concert, but Bart decides he's going to sneak out. He goes to this concert, and I don't know if this is the point you were going to make, but did you notice
that there was 4 Hemuses on stage? You had Hemus.
That's not what I was going to say.
You had Hemus, you had Blemus,
You had Threemus,
and you had Gerald.
Gerald H.
The 4th Hemus.
Gerald,
no,
Gerald the 4th Hemus.
Yeah.
That's his full name.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have
I'm a new character. I'm Gerald the 4th Hemus.
His parents didn't have to name them all.
No, they didn't.
You know, maybe Hemus's dad is named Gerald.
Gerald was
Gerald's
a
the
family
oldest.
name. I'm going to leave now.
Anyway, no, there was 4 characters that looked exactly like Hemus on stage.
You're right. That's not what I was going to say,
Okay.
though. I was going to have an actual valid criticism, which was every time there were 2 different types of crowd shots at the Murder
I
for
didn't
Hell.
notice this.
It was a close-up shot right in the front, which is where Bart was, and then a wide shot of everybody when Bart is up on the stage. The close shot, all of the characters were black. The wide shot, most of the characters were white or yellow in this case.
I wish I could go back and look at this
It was-
right now.
it was weird.
Because Springfield has so very few background extras. Usually you recognize the same faces. I don't think they have
There were
enough
not
black people to
No,
fill
they
a
were
shot.
new characters, and
that's
it was very, very odd.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound too racist. I don't want to sound any racist.
Don't
at
you?
all. I
Don't you?
Okay, I do want to sound too racist. No, I mean, I'm assuming if you went to a rap concert, there would be a lot of black people. Is that racist for me to say?
I'm not going to answer that. I have no.
I'm assuming if I went to I mean, it depends on the artist. I'm sure there's
I
lots
think
of
it
white
depends.
hipsters at a Kanye concert. But,
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like there would be more black people than, say, at a Steely Dan concert. Is that wrong for me to say? I'm not saying I agree with it, but it's probably the case.
You're probably correct. It's just that
I shouldn't say it on. I should be recorded saying
You shouldn't say it on our public podcast where with your full name, Jack McCone,
saying
careofwestudios.com.
that's fairly inoffensive and probably true.
Whatever. Well, it's just I just thought it was weird that
Steely
the tight
Dan
shot.
doesn't like black people.
I'm Mike Myers right now.
You can't see it.
You can't see it, but I did the face.
No, but it is weird that there was 2
It's
separate
weird. It's
shots.
weird that
Yeah,
there was
no,
2 separate
that
shots.
Is, that
Yes,
is very
that
weird.
was my point.
I
It
just
was
wanted to make you uncomfortable.
more of a production
Yeah, no, I know.
oddity.
I just wanted to. You have a lot better prospects in life than I do, so it just makes me laugh.
I don't
that,
think that's true,
10
Jack.
years from now, you're gonna have some big. You're gonna be running for president. Somebody's gonna be like, he co-hosted a podcast with that racist Steely Dan fan,
Yeah. Who ironically wasn't named Dan. He's Jack.
and he hated Indians because he referenced that Sting song.
It's not a good song, so
It's catchy. So Hank Azaria, speaking of racist, Hank Azaria's black voice was kind of cringeworthy while he was rapping. I don't think, again, it wasn't because it was racist per se. It was just, again, this kind of bad rapping. It was more cringeworthy than anything.
It was just like
you don't usually cringe at racism. Usually you should be disgusted and abhorred by racism. You don't cringe at racism. I was cringing at this. I wasn't offended by it.
It's interesting because it's Hank Azaria doing a very stereotypical gangster rap voice.
Yeah.
And I feel like Hank Azaria...
It also sounded like Mo rapping at points, which was
It did sound
jarring.
a little bit like Mo rapping, which is odd. But Hank Azaria gets... Maybe not... Well, he doesn't not get credit. Does that make sense?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
For Apu's voice.
Oh, yeah.
As that being offensive. Because that is a pretty stereotypical Indian voice.
Also, we're used to him, and in 1990, being racist to brown people wasn't just like being trans rights and all that stuff wasn't as front and center as African American.
We were all much horrible people back in 1990. I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm sure if he started doing Apu post. Master of None, is that the name of the show?
Yes, it is.
I'm sure if he did post that, it would at least have a few more BuzzFeed articles.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And I feel like Apu maybe got grandfathered in, or at the very least, like there's been so many episodes exploring Apu as a character where he's not just this one-note
it's not
stereotype.
Just Apu. Do you ever think if they did a Short Circuit remake, they would get a white guy in brown face to do the Indian?
I would hope not.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Although I did like Fisher Stevens in those movies.
Yes, because we grew up with it, and Short Circuit is awesome.
Fisher Stevens is great in Super Mario Brothers the movie.
He's great in Early Edition, which I would totally do a podcast about. Because
I've never seen it. Let's do it.
Kyle Chandler
gets the news.
A day in advance. So here's my question. You're raising this about Hank Azaria and whether he would get away with it or not.
Yep.
Why not just avoid all this and fucking get Ludacris to do it? It was clearly modeled on Ludacris. You can't get Ludacris. There's any number of other rapper/actors. There's so many different performers you could have got to do this.
I would say just get any black voiceover actor. Just anyone.
And which they do now, I think, more. This is an earlier post-classic episode. I feel like now Kevin Michael Richardson has done some
yes, he does a lot of voices
He's
now.
a very talented actor, voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
No, you could have gotten anybody, but I feel like why not stunt cast it? They have Fiddy in one scene, but why not just get a rapper to play this part?
But so, Bart the microphone drops.
Yeah,
and Bart picks it up.
Bart gets up there.
And then he climbs up, because the guy says, Alcatraz says, if you got that mic, you better use it. And Bart gets up on stage, and he had been writing like raps in his room because he was angry at Homer.
I gotta say this: for all of the things that went down, Nancy Cartwright's rapping was not bad.
You are wrong. It was fucking terrible.
I didn't cringe like the way I did when Homer and Marge rapped. In fact, I gotta applaud them.
I'm so surprised to hear you say these words.
I would say it's a noble experiment that failed, like the couch gag from last week in Barthood.
Look, man, nobody wants to see Bart rapping. We all did do the Bart Man. That was good enough. That was 15 years before this episode.
Here's why I don't think it was nearly as bad as Homer and Marge's. For one thing, the lyrics weren't bad. They weren't like.
Well, this was clearly a better written rap song. It
was better written rap song.
Because Homer and Marge are supposed to be terrible.
Here's why I liked it. It had a style. It was very Eminem-esque. It felt like
that was definitely
rhythm,
what they were going for.
Yeah, the rhythm was very
8 Mile was out around this time.
And the fact that they anchored it, the fact that they gave it a realistic rhythm and it was consistent. Bart for this he doesn't rap it the rest of the episode, but for this one time, his rapping it felt of his character because it was consistent. It was nice that Bart was, if Bart was going to rap, this is how he raps. And rather than just having him rap in all these different styles to fit the joke, whereas like Homer and Marge's rapping is, that really lame, my name is Jack, I'm here to say a boom chicka choo.
Yeah, but
instead of, they actually tried here. And it wasn't amazing, but it was.
They did try, but it's still, I don't want to hear Nancy Cartwright sing. I definitely don't want to hear her rap.
I don't want to hear her sing.
No offense to Nancy Cartwright.
I don't want to hear.
She's a wonderfully talented voice actress.
But she held her own. It wasn't good, but she did embarrass herself, I would say.
No part of me wanted to see Bart Simpson rapping, and I had to watch it today.
I would say you're right. And again,
I know what you're saying. You didn't think it was as bad.
No.
There was some saving grace to it.
In your corner, even ignoring all that, I would say a big part of that reason that you don't want to hear him rap is, again, because you can't really update the characters at a certain point. At a certain point, they were a generation behind.
Right.
Bart Simpson started in 1986. He came of age in the early 90s. He's not exactly, well, I guess at that point he could have been somebody who grew up with rap, but he wasn't. He was kind of written a generation older because he was written by older writers.
Right.
Bart Simpson he didn't grow up with rap music. He's a generation behind. So it's just weird to hear Bart. You don't want to hear Bart rapping because
No, I definitely don't.
Bart is not a 10-year-old from 2005 or whatever, or 2016. He's a 10-year-old from 1987.
Yeah.
So you're right. That I feel like you'll never get over that hump and maybe the show is just it hit an impasse.
I don't know. I feel like it could have. I feel like it could have been done a different way. That might have been better. It was just like.
I know.
It did nothing for me. I didn't like it. And I also noticed that Bart is up on the stage rapping with Alcatraz, and then as soon as he's done rapping, immediately we cut to Bart in Alcatraz's limo, his stretch Hummer.
I guess Alcatraz liked him.
We definitely missed a step in that storyline.
I will say this: they did a lot of jokes about how overly extravagant the gangsta rap life is.
Yeah.
Didn't really. Most of those jokes didn't do too much for me because you're just so used to it.
Yeah.
I did like the surrealism of the House of Wax Museum of movie monsters that went down a spiral flight of stairs
in the stretch Hummer.
Yeah, it made zero sense. It was it must be a TARDIS, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Alcatraz could afford a TARDIS.
Or stole one. Oh, wait, no, that's racist.
Hey, now.
No, I just meant because the doctor stole it. I've said enough not really racist but racist things today.
You have. But then
I did like that.
Then we have our guest star, Mr. 50 Cent, pulls up next to Alcatraz and rolls down the window. And, oh, man, it was bad because Bart just goes,
my goodness.
Jeepers, it's 50 cents.
That was terrible. Bart saying, Jeepers, it's 50. And again, I bet you the writers were like, no, we did that on purpose. We wanted him to sound as corny as possible. No, that's not a good excuse. No.
Yeah,
So,
but 50 Cent, he pulls up and he says, Bart, you did pretty good. You should, follow your dreams or you can do whatever you want. And then he kind of pulls away. And then we cut to 50 Cent talking to someone else in the car.
His
parole officer, I guess.
Yeah.
And he says, does that count as community service? And they're like, no. And he's like, oh, well, let's go to the park and pick up some dog poop.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny.
All right, so I want to say this.
And I thought the delivery was actually very funny.
This was the only scene I remember from this episode.
Okay.
And it stuck with me since the one time I caught it in syndication.
It's a
10
jarring
years ago.
scene because it's the celebrity shove-in scene.
But when I, like Pranksta Rap, every time you would bring it up and when we were talking about suggestions and stuff, I always remembered it was the 50 Cent episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remembered really liking this scene.
Right.
And it still held up. I thought this was maybe the best scene in the episode because 50 Cent was actually a really good guest star.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's a good actor because I've seen him in a lot of movies, but they've all been terrible. But it wasn't his fault, so I'm still on the. I could see him being a good actor.
Look, I mean, he's playing himself. It's like 3 lines at most.
But his delivery, it wasn't like cue card bad.
No, it wasn't
reading. It was it was actually. I really liked both lines. Does this count as community service?
Yeah.
First of all, that's a very funny line.
It is.
And then him saying
the dog poop line.
Yeah, and his delivery made it work. It could that joke could have fell flat. So to Fiddy's credit, he did a great job. This was my favorite scene in the episode.
If I were editing the podcast, I'd put that line right here.
And you're not.
You probably will.
You're not editing it.
You probably played it already.
Maybe, yeah. I would say this is actually where I suddenly, once the rap was all over, done with, starting with 50 Cent, I was all ready to say this was one of the worst episodes ever. I was ready to give it like a really low humor score. But then there was like, we'll see. They're in my notes here.
Okay, I'm curious to see what you say.
There were a handful of individual lines where I actually thought were genuinely funny.
Well, I don't know if you thought.
More than usual.
I'm going to make him like NWA, not without ass welts.
I did write that down because I want to know what you think. I don't know if I don't like it or not.
I hated it. I thought it was terrible.
I feel like that's one that it's weird enough, but maybe it's lazy. I don't know.
It's weird, but not without ass welts is nothing.
I can't tell if it's really lazy or like so surreal it's funny. It's like Eagle Heart.
Oh, I like Eagle Heart.
I like Eagle Heart too. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
So then it turns into a phony kidnapping episode, and my first note was, please do not blame the black guys. Which they don't. They blame Kirk Van Houten, which is fine.
They didn't even blame the Indians, to their credit.
But I did like, it's the very end of the act. You might have something before it, but I just want to say this line where Homer learns that Bart has been kidnapped, quote unquote, because Bart throws a rock through the windshield with his fake ransom letter on it. And Homer goes, "Oh, this is the worst Thanksgiving ever." And Marge goes, "Homer, Thanksgiving's not for months." And he just goes, "Oh, so much bad news keeps coming." You didn't like that.
That's actually in my
Interesting.
no, that's not in my random lines. That's in my. I didn't like how stupid Homer was. We glossed over this when Homer was at the hammock. Bart asked for money and he says, "Go to hell." That was
Right,
all
yeah,
that
you
was
said
very
that.
mean. Yeah, and then he goes, "Yeah, whatever, Jerry." Is he
Yeah,
so stupid
I
he
wasn't even
doesn't
going to
know Bart's
mention that.
name?
I think that is the joke.
I didn't like, and there were other lines that I didn't write down, but I felt like there were too many lines. Obviously, this is a big problem in a lot of episodes, but Homer's just too fucking stupid. He doesn't know Bart's name, and then at that, like if this was by itself, I wouldn't have minded, but I was so pissed off already that I was like, oh come on, Homer, you know it's not fucking Thanksgiving.
Well, yeah, I get it. I mean, I didn't like the Jerry thing either, but this I chuckled
I just
at.
hate when he's that fucking stupid.
I chuckled at it because I also like Thanksgiving.
I will say the following scene, I said the 50 Cent scene was my favorite scene in the episode. The following scene might be some severe competition, and this might also be my favorite or second favorite. At worst, second favorite. It's the Kent Brockman scene.
Okay, so I did like some of the Kent Brockman stuff.
Yeah, I would say Harry Shearer is just the fucking secret weapon of post-classic Simpsons.
You're right.
I mean, he's great in the classic, but everybody's great in the classic. But Harry Shearer just can still give such, for somebody who just doesn't give a shit, his A game is still always right there.
Him phoning it in is better than most people trying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And his Brockman was just so spot on. One of my favorite lines was when he's interviewing Marge, and he goes, "Would you say that
Marge is hysterical crying.
She misses Bart because
Yeah.
she's
She's
that
hysterical.
is horrifying.
Bart has been
if
kidnapped,
you think
as
your
far as she
child
knows.
is actually kidnapped. Yeah. And he goes, "Would you say your pain is so much that you wish your son had never been born?" And it's like, and it's delivered in such a matter of fact, very reporterly,
Right.
Kent Brockman-esque way.
Yep.
It was just executed so perfectly, like just how cold it was and how succinct and. It was perfect. It was such a perfect delivery. And then Marge bursts out crying even louder.
And then I also liked he asks her to read the copy for the news channel's promotion that they're running for like a trip to Hawaii
He's
or
like,
whatever
would
it was.
read
Would
this,
you read
this might
this?
feel better. And she's like, yeah,
We're with News Channel 5.
That Kent Brockman I just thought was so great in that one moment, basically.
Yeah.
I guess scene is too big a word.
I agree. I liked it too.
And then, so Wiggum is now doing a press conference. And
it becomes a Wiggum episode,
which
basically.
was shocking.
Very
yeah,
quickly.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I
No,
thought it was
me
going
neither.
to be about rap.
Yeah.
It was more about the prankster.
I mean, I was kind of glad it wasn't about rap, but I was not as high on this storyline as you seem to be.
No, I don't really care about the storyline. I'm just talking about individual jokes.
Yeah,
and this
there's
is what,
some, but...
So I guess the reason I was because the first act was so bad with the rapping, and then there was like a 1, 2, 3 punch that I really liked. I liked 50 Cent. I liked Kent Brockman following right after that. And then there was a line I really liked right after that. So Wiggum is doing the press conference, and he talks about like the crimes he'd solved before, and Lou says, "Chief, that was a Columbo episode,"
Right?
Which I was like, whatever.
Yeah,
it's like he thought he watched Columbo, but
they gave you who did it in the beginning, and then you have to remember it to the end.
See
though.
that I loved. I love.
I thought that was lazy.
So when Lou says, no, it's Columbo. They give away who the killer is in the first scene of the episode, and Wiggum saying, "Yeah, but you have to remember." That's to me, that's a funny.
It didn't work for me.
A funny twist, a funny way to end the joke, a funny end then.
I just thought it was lazy. It's just that is what Columbo did, and Chief Wiggum's too stupid to remember.
No,
the end?
that is what's. The Columbo setup I was not crazy about, but I think that's a clever idea that I would never have thought on my own to make a joke about how if you watch Columbo, you might actually still not know who the killer is because you have to remember.
Because you forgot from the beginning.
To me, that's a clever way of looking at Columbo that I would have never thought of.
I didn't love it, but there is a Columbo podcast out there, Jack.
Is there
I don't know if
really?
you knew that. It is called Just One More Thing.
Really?
Yeah, really.
God bless you
That's
guys.
for truth.
Yeah, I would love to do a crossover.
If you're a
with them.
listener,
Do they talk
great.
about Columbo the whole time, or do they do?
I've never actually listened to it. I've just heard. Well, I assume that they do a bunch of wonderful voices.
I'm sure they probably just talk about the episode and everybody likes them for it.
No, it's probably more like there's two of them and one of them's dead inside and the other one's always trying to make these wacky voices work, and a bunch of people are like, this show isn't good anymore.
They probably just do the thing that they say they were going to do.
No, I'd prefer to like make it wacky and then like spin off a whole other podcast, not talking about The Simpsons anymore because we're tired of talking about The Simpsons.
If they come up with a 90s podcast and just call it Not Columbo, I will be very upset.
Okay, can we change 90s percentile to not Columbo?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm 100% on board with
Use
that.
the promo code not Columbo.
All right, so then this is the next joke is where I was like, oh, there goes the run of good jokes I liked.
Is it Milhouse?
Yes, it's Milhouse.
So Milhouse, Bart is
yeah.
gone. So Milhouse is playing by himself. He's got a frisbee and he's throwing it back and forth. Like he'll throw it and it lands on the ground. He'll walk over to pick it up and throw it back. And it goes on for way too long. They're trying to do a Sideshow Bob rake thing. It does not work. It's not funny.
I knew the rake gag, sir. And you are no rake gag. So Milhouse is there. He realizes Bart is faking his kidnapping. He suggests Kirk's house because Kirk is never home. He works as a scarecrow, where he literally just...
Did you like the scarecrow thing?
No, not particularly.
Me neither.
But I loved...
Are you talking about the stuffed animal coat?
Yes, I
Yep.
am. He says how... well, there's a joke where Homer's like... Bart's like, the heat is on. I got to hide somewhere. And Milhouse is like, go to my dad's place. The heat's never on. That's not even a bad joke by itself.
Okay. That was okay.
But he says his dad made a coat out of a stuffed
He
animal.
had to make a coat out of Milhouse's stuffed animals.
Of Kirk with it looks like the
I'm gonna make
Leo's
that
thing from The Revenant, but instead of one bear, it's only stuffed animals.
I'm going to make that the photo for the episode, as long as I remember.
Yeah,
I'm going to write that
has
down.
nothing to do with the episode.
No, but I'm still going to do it.
I was so disappointed. So Wiggum is like... Wiggum is trying to solve this case. He's so embarrassed that everybody thinks he's a joke. He is a joke, and he's a useless cop, and he's just so embarrassed. And he gets a pep talk from a famous TV cop.
Before we get to the Barney Fife, I want to point out Wiggum goes into his office, and he has a bunch of framed news articles, and they're all degrading him. They're all saying, like, commission asks, like, what's wrong with Wiggum or something like that. And he starts talking, and he's like, I should have noticed that all these were... I don't even remember what he says. He says a line about, like, the things behind him, and the much better line is, I should have, like... I don't remember the line, because now, at this point, I've watched it, like, 2.5 hours ago. But he says something to the effect of, like, maybe I'm a bad cop, or something like that. Whereas I thought a funnier line would be if he just sits down and says, I should have read these before I got them framed. Because he has all these terrible framed things in his office.
And
and
they
then
had to justify why he had bad headlines up on the wall.
Right, and they do a bad job of it.
You hated it?
Yeah, I thought... I hated
it. I loved it. I hated it too.
And at this point, I was also wondering, what the fuck's going on? Are we getting back to the rap plot, or is this just a Chief Wiggum episode now? And it seems like it's just a Chief Wiggum episode now.
That's where I said, wait, is this a Wiggum episode?
No, I guess he falls asleep, and he sees Barney Fife is on TV talking to him, and kind of giving him a pep talk about, like, you gotta, like, get it together and, like, prove that you're a good cop. The only part of it that I liked was the very end, when he was like, wait a minute, are you Barney Fife, or are you the actor or the character that you're playing? And he's like, I'm a ghost.
Yeah, he's like, I gotta get back on set. He's like, wait, are you the character? Are you the actor? Yeah, I like that too. I was so disappointed. I found out after the episode when I was looking it up that wasn't Don Knotts.
It was Dana Gould doing an impersonation.
I was so bummed because I was like, I thought in general,
I couldn't tell at first.
It was a decent guest appearance. I was like, oh, good job, Don Knotts. I don't think he was dead at the time. Maybe he was.
I don't think that he was.
2005. I feel like he died more recently. Who knows?
Don Knotts passed away 2006.
Oh, so he was alive.
So he was around.
Maybe he was too old or sick or whatever. I did like this line a lot. So Bart calls and pretends to be the kidnappers and asks for ransom. And Marge is like, I need to speak to my son. I need to know he's all right. And Bart hears her crying, and he feels bad that she's like, he feels bad that he's actually putting her through this, which makes sense. Thank you, Bart.
Yeah.
And he tries to make her feel better. He's like, oh, don't worry, Mom. They say they'll kill me if you worry too much. And that just makes her like even more upset.
I actually don't remember that
I like that a lot because
Yeah.
it's justified. Bart is genuinely trying to make her feel better and just did a bad job. That's
Right.
a fun, like that's good writing.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
That made me laugh. I also loved there was so Bart's hungry, so he's making Jiffy Pop.
Chintzy Pop.
Chintzy Pop.
Because they say it like 6 or 7 times, and they think it's a lot funnier than it is.
It's not that funny.
It's not that funny at all.
and
that was my next point, but continue.
Yeah, and so Wiggum hears the popping, and that's actually the clue that gets him on the trail. He tracks it to Quickie Mart and stuff. But I like he's like, at first when he doesn't quite realize it's popcorn. He's like, I've heard this before. Wait, is it hail falling on a tin roof? And then he looks at the newspaper, and the top story is "Hail Drought Continues" or something like that, and the subheadline is "Tin Roofs Undented."
Wow, I completely missed that.
I think that's like one of those classic Springfield Shopper headlines. lines that would have fit right in with the old days.
Boy, we can't watch them separately anymore because
Yeah, we don't.
we like
I
watched
think
two
it is.
different
I
episodes.
think it's
basically.
because when one of us is taking notes, the other one sees that they're missing
Right, and
something
we
and
can
they say,
point it
"Look at
out.
this." Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there we
Shit.
go.
All right, we solved
Studio
that.
D is studio done.
Studio poop.
So then he realizes that it's popcorn. He's like, only Quickie Mart sells this kind of popcorn.
Right.
And he goes, Lou, Eddie, we gotta go to Quickie Mart. And they're like, we went 2 times today.
That was for snacks. This is for evidence
Yeah,
or whatever.
I like Wiggum saying this time it's not personal. It's
Yeah.
like, if you're gonna have that line, at least it was justified. It wasn't shoehorned in. Pop, not the popcorn.
Chintzy pop. Yeah, I mean, it was fine. And just at this point, I don't know. Nothing in this stretch stuck out
like
to
this.
me.
I like this joke too. See, there's a lot of jokes I liked. I like that the chintzy pop is the really cut rate shitty popcorn. Most of the kernels are baby teeth.
Yeah, that was okay.
See, these are like Simpson-y jokes. These are what I'm trying to. This is what I watched the show for. Although the problem is obviously that you want those jokes to be embedded in a story that works with characters that are relatable.
I felt
which is the big part that's missing.
I just felt like burned by this episode. Like you're selling me this episode where Bart gets into rap.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
not
was
what
like,
it's
I'm
about.
not into that
That's
episode.
That's
but
the
what I thought
Spinal
it was
Tap
gonna be.
non sequitur. Yeah.
But the Spinal Tap thing wasn't the entire first act.
No, it was an extended non sequitur.
It was,
and it
it's
does
just-
tie in at the end, I guess.
It's sort of.
But anyway, Wiggum finds Bart and he arrests Kirk because they think that Kirk actually kidnapped Bart. And Wiggum
I like that. I like that they would assume that Kirk was a kidnapper because Kirk is just this very, very sad person.
Yeah.
Though I think they kind of turned it up too much, the patheticness of Kirk, like
I'm
the
glad
whole
they turned
scarecrow
up the
thing.
patheticness.
Him having an eye patch for half the episode.
Yeah, I'm glad they turned that up and not like making it really creepy because it's probably not too hard to draw a line into making him like some kind of weird like
You could.
I could see Kirk Van Houten becoming the Batman villain Mad Hatter or something where he's just like
He has no experts with electronics and mind control.
No, but I mean, like, look, you don't want. I'm trying to get. We already hit our pedophile quota for 2016.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say pedophile, but yes.
You don't want pedophiles in The Simpsons.
Did we hit our Hitler quota already?
We did. We're going a little bit over. We're borrowing from 2017.
Okay.
But if you're gonna have a pedophile in Springfield, it probably would be somebody like Kirk Van Houten.
Probably.
Or even
Almost-
in real life.
almost certainly.
In real
Yeah.
life, the closest analog would probably be a Mo or a Kirk.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Mo's just a rapist, not a pedophile.
No. So.
But yeah,
so-
I mean-
But I'm glad they didn't draw that connection.
Right, and
We did.
he's they skirted the line between making him too pathetic, but I think it was
Yeah. No.
on the whole
I know what
probably
you mean.
okay.
The Scarecrow was.
The Scarecrow was a little too much. But Bart is reunited with Homer and Marge, and there was a great line that I loved where Homer says, I guess I'll have to take your tombstone back to the store.
Yeah.
I didn't love the actual seeing of the tombstone, but just the
Yeah.
idea of taking a tombstone back to the store, that made me laugh.
I guess the funny return.
made me laugh.
I mean, I like the one in the Who Shot Mr. Burns much better.
Well, yeah.
Not Who Shot Mr. Burns. Mother Simpson.
And yeah, Mother Simpson.
Yeah. Chief,
Also-
you're tucking into your wallet.
Cancel that FPB, but bring back some of them gyros. Speaking of Wiggum, they throw Wiggum a parade.
Yeah.
The Millhouse getting crushed in the parade. Like, that's the second time you're doing a Sideshow Bob thing with Millhouse in this episode.
weird,
It's so
yeah.
weird.
They want Milhouse to be the new Bob because Kelsey Grammer's.
I guess he's
asking
too
for too much
expensive.
money. Yeah.
Millhouse had a funny-ish line. I'm curious to see what you think about it. Bart says, don't tell anyone like that I'm lying about your father kidnapping me or else I'll tell them your secret. And he was like, I wasn't scared during Harry Potter when I peed my pants. I just had to pee or something like that.
I like I just had to pee.
Yeah.
Like
I thought it was pretty funny.
like trying to justify why he peed himself. I
I thought that was funny.
I did like Wiggum gets promoted to commissioner.
Right. Yes, I like this too.
So then he promotes Lou to chief of police.
Yes.
And then he promotes Eddie to be the
To
new Lou.
Lou.
Yeah, he's like, Eddie, you're promoted to Lou. And so
And then Eddie says, who's going to be the new Eddie? And he's, we don't need an Eddie.
I like that.
Yeah. That reminded me a lot of Seinfeld when George gets a raise and they say, who's going to be the new you? And then George says, we got an intern. He's coming in 1 day a week.
I like that it's I wasn't crazy about the plot, the kidnapping plot or anything, but I
No, I
like that
wasn't
at
either.
least it's not as simple as possible. At least that it's a little bit complicated. Basically, this wrinkle that Bart feels bad because Kirk's in jail, but he can't exactly just come clean because then he would bring Wiggum down. If anything, that's actually a better justification than a similar situation in a great episode, The Boy Who Knew Too Much, where Bart sees that Quimby is innocent, but he can't
come
exonerate
forward
him because
without hurting
he'd get
himself.
but he'd only get in trouble.
He'd get in trouble.
He'd get detention, but it's not that the stakes aren't that high.
Right.
I mean, it's detention.
Well,
whereas
in this one,
it's very high stakes. Wiggum would basically lose all of everything he's gained.
Right, but in this one, nobody wants him to tell the truth except Lisa, who has no reason for him to tell the truth.
They give themselves an out by having Kirk actually enjoy being in prison.
Yeah.
If Kirk didn't enjoy being in prison, then
there's stakes.
That's a great story. Yeah, then there's stakes because then Bart would basically have to choose: do I ruin Kirk's life or do I ruin Wiggum's life? That's a really cool concept.
That could have been something. They don't do that though.
But by not doing that, at least you're like, oh well, at least Kirk is not suffering. Everybody wins, which makes it so weird that Lisa seems so determined to ruin it for everybody.
Especially because Lisa goes out to the treehouse and finds a murder for life shirt.
So lazy.
And immediately pieces together everything that's happened.
And they even make a joke about it because then Homer does the same thing.
Okay, so Homer makes. Here's the Homer scene.
Were you doing your DMX there?
Blah blah. That's my DMX.
I thought that was your David Lee Roth.
No, that's why I'm just a gigolo. And everybody knows. That's all we can play legally. Lisa finds a Murder for Life shirt and brings it to Homer, and Homer immediately throws it in the fire.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Because then he says, oh, I sold Bart's life rights to make a movie, and we can't have anything that shows that it wasn't true.
Oh,
that
well,
was okay.
He also says, I sold his life rights for a fortune, which I've already lost.
Yeah,
I like how they
right.
completely gloss
Just
over it.
gloss over that. I like that.
Unlike a lazy line where they just throw it away, I could totally see it, and it's
Of
actually
course.
funnier that Homer already lost the money.
Absolutely. But then Homer goes on and says he just takes off his own shirt and just burns it. And Lisa says, why did you burn your shirt? And he just goes, what shirt? And it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Again,
the joke is like, I guess the joke is Homer's really stupid and forgot why he was burning clothes.
I don't like this.
There's no real justification for it, and it doesn't work for me.
Oh, here I wasn't even. I thought I didn't have any notes, but I'm looking at my next note, and I had Homer burning pants did nothing for me. I noticed that when I realized I was checking my phone during the whole time.
Right.
I was literally was checking my text because I was just so didn't give a shit.
It almost made it worth it because the very next scene is Lisa going to Skinner, and Skinner says, "Wait, why did your father burn his pants?"
That wasn't bad. That
was funny, but it's not worth the setup to get to that line.
But anyway, so they use Skinner to figure Lisa really wants to ruin it for everybody. She wants to ruin Wiggum's career, ruin Kirk's chance at happiness.
Lisa's just a ruiner. So they figure out that they need to track down Alcatraz and get video of his concert to show that Bart was there.
Yeah, so I guess that timestamp and that joke pretty much is what gets Kirk out of prison and ruins Wiggum's career, I guess.
I guess, yeah. I have a line.
Brings everything to the status quo.
I have a line here. I don't remember what the setup was. I wrote, "It's idiomatic, biatch." Do you remember what?
Yeah.
I hated the use of biatch.
Well, it was Skinner.
Because that is just lame. Kind of dad
joke,
humor.
yeah.
Oh, is that what they're saying? They're saying biatch, and they say it over and over to be funny, but it's not funny.
I can't think of any non Dave Chappelle times where I thought biatch was funny.
Yeah.
But Skinner, the joke was Skinner was correcting his humor. He said the word ain't, and Skinner says, say isn't, and Alcatraz says,
I remember now.
It's idiomatic.
Yeah, none of this
That
worked.
was actually a part of a whole thread where then he gives this very eloquent speech, and the joke was, look at these dumb, silly rappers, how they're actually really eloquent. Isn't that eloquent? Isn't that funny? Like how they're
It's
actually
so funny.
really...
You wouldn't expect them to be smart.
Yeah, this creative, very wealthy because of his talent at writing music.
Yeah.
How can
He must be a dum-dum.
Exactly. What a shock. He's smart. AKA because he's black.
Well, you said it.
Yeah. Well,
And,
I'm saying
well,
it.
we're calling attention to a problem in this episode.
No, I'm calling it out on that. That's pushing. That's over the line. That's just like, I can't believe this black guy is so smart. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep.
I know
Not great.
I know that they on paper they could easily defend themselves, saying no, the joke is because he's a silly rapper named Alcatraz, but no, it's because he's black and you're making a racist joke.
Yep. I wrote down, "Yo fool, be cooly, cooly, cooly."
That was more bad.
what the hell that
was
is.
more bad Homer rapping. Yeah, he does one more.
Oh,
rap
right,
at the
that's
end.
before he knocks over the
we're
TV
cool,
at the
we're
very
cool,
end.
cool.
Yeah. No, dislike.
Yeah, and then then it cuts to.
Well, before that, I have one note that just said, "Oh Christ, don't rap, please." That was my note, I guess, for that Homer scene.
And then it pretty much ends with them hanging out in I keep saying ludicrous, Alcatraz's patio.
Right.
And
Somehow it turns into a huge pool party.
Homer does a cannonball. Lisa's like, I think that was it. She brings up some point. I don't remember what it was, but it was basically the joke of, oh, wait, we still haven't wrapped up this and this and this story thread. And Homer goes, well, I have one solution for that.
Right.
Cannonball. Basically, they couldn't come up with a way to wrap everything up, so they thought the joke would be that they don't have to. See, I mean, we're so clever.
They certainly had done that many times at this point, so whatever.
But Homer jumps in, does a cannonball, and jumps into the pool, and that's the last shot, and the water splashes onto the black screen. Onto the camera, and so the credits, executive producer Al Jean, etc., instead of being the typical yellow Simpsons font, was this weird splashing water
thing.
I thought that was weird because that had nothing to do with the episode. The only thing it had to do with was the very last shot.
End.
You think if you're gonna change the credits up, it would be something thematic, something tied in,
something either like ransom notey or like rappery.
Something that ties in more universal with the episode rather than this like weird. I feel like if you're gonna change the credits, you should have a good reason because it's such a rare thing for them to do. And then even weirder is they have a scene that probably should have just been the last scene of the episode and then cut to the credits.
It probably was, but you had to make room for that 50-cent scene.
But for some reason they make it a post-credit scene where they do a few
under the credits. Yeah,
they do a few of the top credits and then they cut to the scene, and it's Skinner is talking to them.
Skinner's talking to Alcatraz.
And he's like, "Hey,
trying to rap.
Maybe you guys could use a middle-aged white guy in your entourage." And they're like,
a middle-aged white guy educator.
Oh, right. And they go, "Oh, we already got one."
Right.
And they cut to Chalmers, and Chalmers has like a back. I think he had a Limp Bizkit hat on. He had like a backwards red hat and a white T-shirt and the jewelry. And he comes out.
I don't remember he rapped it all, but
he said something like something in slang, like he was just like, "Hey, this wasn't it," but it was like, I'm so fat, PHAT. I don't know. It was something like that.
He said something lame.
Yeah, something lame.
But then he said something great.
Well, then he goes, he goes, I know they're laughing at me, but my wife is very sick, and
that was it. It was just my wife is very sick, and then the episode just ends.
Now, this is very interesting because this was season
16.
Yeah. Season 20 is the Roosevelt episode we watched with Bryce over a year ago, or about a year ago.
Episode 16.
And Chalmers is a widower. His wife died.
Oh, I didn't think of that. I didn't put that together.
First of all, it's interesting, and we should note anytime The Simpsons has any sort of continuity because it's so rare.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they actually do have something that makes sense and has a through line that you can follow. What's really depressing is it means that his wife was very sick. The money he got from Alcatraz humiliating himself wasn't enough, and she died.
And she died.
And the time he could have been spending with her during her last days, instead he was spending dressed up as like an idiot, hanging out with a bunch of strangers. How depressing is that?
That's pretty sad. Okay.
I feel like I really like that they made Chalmers a widower. I liked it because I'd never heard of his wife before, and it just seemed to be part of his character. It's really depressing to think that that's how she died. Those were I feel like if they knew this scene already existed, I would just not make him a widower. I go, no, we gotta save the wife now, right?
Yeah. No, that's
how dark is that?
It seems like I'm looking really quickly at the Wikipedia page for Chalmers, and it seems like it's just very inconsistent because sometimes he's dating Agnes Skinner, and sometimes he has a wife.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I guess it's just a coincidence. But I like to think that, that she was dying of cancer while he's like at this pool party.
At Alcatraz's house. Well, whatever it was, I laughed at. My wife is very sick.
No, it
makes me a bad person.
Without that context, if we had never watched that other episode, it was a very funny line.
Yep.
It's just weird that it was after the credits or under the credits. It should have.
Well, I'm sure that was just for time.
Wouldn't that have been much better though for the episode to end on that rather than on the cannonball?
Probably, but then you can't have the weird water credits for some reason.
Because it doesn't make sense to cut it for time. It took up the exact amount of time it would have if it was placed right after the. I don't know.
I don't know, guys.
Boys, even though I've been made police commissioner, don't think I've forgotten you. Lou, you're promoted to chief of police.
Sweet.
And Eddie, you're promoted to Lou.
Nice. And who's going to be Eddie?
We don't need an Eddie.
So now it is time to rank this episode, and we're going to do that on our 4-factor test, the Hippo scale, patent pending. We're looking at the humor, the integrity, the production values, and the originality. We're going to look at that for this episode, Pranksta Rap, Season 16. So, Jack, can we put 2 minutes on the clock?
Beep, boop. Beep, boop. I can't see. I have no musical talent. I'm trying to do 50 Cent.
beep. Oh,
I'm trying to do.
Bing, boop, boom, boop, beep, boop. So 2 minutes are on the clock, and we are going to be looking at the humor first. Jack, the humor, 0 to 5 scale, 0 the worst, 5 the best, 2.5 in the middle. What do you got for this episode?
I gotta say, there's way more, not a lot, but way more jokes that I genuinely really liked than I can't remember the last episode I thought had that many individual jokes. But the rapping was also so bad. So I wish I could give it 2 separate humor scores, because I guess they should cancel each other out, and I'll just give it a 2.5. But even that seems too high because the rapping was so bad.
I won't credit the rapping. Well, the rapping was bad. I'll take points off for that. But I was also thinking 2.5, and it's weird because you liked a lot of jokes that I didn't, and I liked a lot of jokes that you didn't. Yeah. So we've kind of
which
split
is a good
in a
thing.
Weird way.
That means it's pleasing a lot of people. But there was just so many jokes that we both agree were really bad.
There's a lot that I did not like in this episode. I thought it was borderline offensive in times. I thought the plotting was terrible. I'm going to ding it in all those other places. But
2.5.
Humor, I'm going to say 2.5.
I agree.
You're on there too?
Completely different reasons.
Okay, so the integrity of this episode. Yes, it might be a little low.
Yeah. Again, I think we hit on something important. I think that's a really another thing we're going to have to explore in later episodes, over the next 550 episodes.
All right, let's do it.
The idea that maybe the Simpsons are just inherently dated to a specific generation, and then you can only update them to a certain point.
Yeah.
Bart's love of rap felt like it was out of nowhere.
Totally out of nowhere.
I gotta ding it for integrity for that.
Lisa has no reason to do anything.
Why is
in this
Lisa
episode.
ruining everything for everybody?
Yeah.
1.
I'm also saying 1. So far, we're see. I thought we had different opinions on this episode, but so far we're lining right up.
That's interesting for different reasons. It's almost like we're completing each other's
sandwiches. Production values. I knew you were going to say that.
I know.
I know that you knew that I knew. Did you know that?
No.
Production values. What do you got? 0 to 5.
There was nothing spectacular.
Nothing especially good.
I feel
nothing
like
especially bad though.
The one time they could have. I look for set pieces where you can really show off, and the one time I guess would have been the rap concert. Instead, I got 4 hemuses.
Well, we got 4 hemuses and some questionable production that I mentioned earlier.
I guess 2.5 would sound right because it's average, but I feel like it should be a little lower. You know what?
We're in sync today, Jack. Are you Lance Bass? Am I Joey Fatone? Because we're in sync.
I was gonna say 2, but you know what? I'm gonna bump it back up to 2.5 because of the Wax Museum stairwell.
All right, I'm gonna keep
and the newspaper gag, which I guess that's humor.
And you liked the veggie, the salad.
I did like the veggies
a little bit more than I did. Although I did like that animation.
I'll say 2.5.
I'm gonna say 2. You say 2.5. I guess we're just never going to get along. But originality, Jack, what do you got?
The plot was original. It reminded me of lots of kidnapping movies, but it made sense. I really liked the twist that Kirk actually, that Wiggum, you couldn't, well, you know what? I didn't like the twist. Because you're right.
When you say twist, do you mean that Kirk likes being in prison?
No, I was going to say I like the fact that Bart had the dilemma that he couldn't come clean without bringing Wiggum down. But
it wasn't really a twist because everybody wanted to continue the lie.
Yeah, like you said, you made a great point when we said the stakes. Would only have been stakes if Kirk didn't want to be in prison.
Right.
That's a missed opportunity.
There's no reason for Bart to tell the truth. There's no reason for Lisa to want him to tell the truth. And for that,
it was also a set piece for lots of bad rapping. Like that, I felt like they were like, wouldn't it be funny if we had them rap?
Yeah.
1.5.
I am gonna go 1 actually. I'm gonna go even lower than you are.
I could go 1, but I want to go 1 because I want this overall score to be lower. I feel like it's 2 in the middle as it is. But I can't justify going a 1. I'm going to give it 1.5.
Okay, so we have crunched our numbers, and Pranksta Rap from Season 16 has ranked as a slightly better episode than Gump Roast, and a slightly worse episode than Romy Old and Julie Eh. That puts it at number 25 on our current list.
Slightly better than a clip show.
Slightly better than a terrible clip show. That's where it is. That's what we think. If you disagree, let us know on the Reddit.
Yeah, and if you...
Or email us or tell us at Simpsons Trivia.
I want to remind me that I'm dead inside.
Yes, there's a poll going on. You should vote in it. So that is it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever. If you do have an episode that you would like us to watch, you can submit it on our website. It's wepodcast.com, wepodcast.com. We got a suggestion form where you can submit it, submit your comments for the show. You can do all sorts of fun stuff there. You can go to our Facebook, our Reddit, our Twitter, our MySpace page, our Friendster page, our 8 Tracks page. That's a music sharing thing.
I think just Joseph Gordon-Levitt created that, right?
Yeah,
8 tracks thing.
8 tracks thing.
He pushes it on every goddamn show he's on.
Do all that fun stuff there. And if you are listening to this the day it comes out, you have 1 week for Simpsons Brooklyn Trivia, Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia in Brooklyn. I co-host that with friend of the show, Dan Ozzie. Google Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia to find more information about that and find one in your area if you're not living in Brooklyn. And 90s Percentile, Jack, that's out.
Yeah, check it out,
Check
please.
it out, bro.
Share it with, not just check it out, because we know our true fans
We know the
will at least
12
give
of
it a
you
shot.
are going to love it.
But no, yeah, seriously, tell your friends, share it on your Facebook or your Twitter, your social media of choice. Basically, I'm sure if you've been listening to the show and you really like us, thank you, first of all. But maybe you've had friends who have the same sense of humor, taste as you, and that's why you're friends. And you've wanted to tell them, hey, you should really check out this podcast with these two guys we like. But they just didn't want to put in the work of watching bad episodes of The Simpsons every week,
Right.
or they're
I
just
don't
not
blame
Simpsons fans at all. And they just basically, this isn't their podcast. Now's the time to tell them to check out We Studios.
I bet they lived through part of the 90s.
So totally share this to all your friends who you think would be interested in 30-year-olds talking about the 90s like they were actually important.
Talking about the 90s. Our apologies to Matt Damon. Listen to those first 2 episodes. Okay, so next week we're going to come back. I know. We're coming back again. Next week it's going to be our Super Bowl episode coming out right before Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, crap, the game.
Oh, my God, I forgot about the game. So we're going to watch a Super Bowl episode from Season 10. It's called
going way
Sunday, Cruddy Sunday. And that is the one with what's his face?
Fred Willard.
Fred Willard. I almost said Fred Ward, and I was like, that's not it.
That would
He
be
was in
awesome.
Tremors.
Though. Yeah, no, I would love a Fred Ward
That's
episode.
a whole different ball of wax. So Sunday, Crunday.
Well, you got a week to get it right.
Crunday, Sunday, Crunday.
It's starting to snow, Dan. I really got to get going. I don't want to end up being frozen if I make it halfway between the two studios and I get stuck at the bus stop with Hemus for a week.
All right,
That's
so
the worst possible situation.
let's get out of here. Presumably by now we've thawed out of the snow when this episode comes out, but it's barreling down on us right now, so we're gonna get the hell out of here. Jack, since one of my cats is in the room, I think they should be our cat this week. So how do we cut all this, Jack?
Cattle hiss.
You did it on the street, got your dad's permission, but your mom dropped a bomb, so I flipped my position.
Don't argue with Marge. I know what's best. The only rap in this crib keeps sandwiches fresh. Fresh for Mommy's baby boy.
Baby boy, baby boy, baby boy.